All right. Take number
Woo!
5.
Let's
So
go.
for everybody listening out there, yeah, my computer crashed and we were having an absolute nightmare. But it seems like things are a little bit more clear now. Like I'm actually seeing you. Like you seem like you're actually live. Like I'm not having a 25-minute delay.
Fantastic. Fingers crossed.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm recording. So let's start this over. Okay. So yeah. So welcome to the Fitness Burrito Podcast, Sky. Sky Asquith. You're probably one of the only people I know that's got a last name that's quite difficult to pronounce like mine. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? Because people spell it and say it wrong. Yours is more difficult, but
yeah.
Right, carry on. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I just get called a queer all the time, though. All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably just get called an ass all the time.
That's it.
Yeah, whatever.
Which is true. So
yeah, so welcome to episode 4 of the Fitness Burrito. So for anybody out there who's never listened to my podcast is all about just trying to help people, trying to give you practical info that you can hopefully apply in your lifestyle. Sometimes we chat shit, sometimes we go off topic, but for the most part, we have some fun doing it. So I've got a cool little guest. I say little, but you're not that little. I got a cool guest today. Her name's Sky Asquith. She's a colleague of mine. We worked together before. Yeah, she's a certified nutritionist from Mac Nutrition, which is a really good certification or accreditation in the UK. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool to have her on. She's pretty popular lately. She's been on a bunch of different lives and stuff. She's pretty much blowing up, really. Like soon enough, she probably won't even talk to us anymore. So we're
definitely not you. You'll be the first one to be left behind.
We're pretty lucky to have her on, guys. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So yeah. So we got some cool things to talk about today. It might be long, it might not be long. Like I'm actually just on the free version of my podcasting hosting, so like I'm kind of hoping we don't go over a certain amount of time because I'm gonna have to fucking pay to put this up. But whatever.
Mid-sentence, go, yeah, fine. Thanks for coming on. Bye.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I was thinking about probably just increasing it anyways. So on that note, I'm going to let Sky kind of just do a bit of a spiel. Right before my computer crashed, Sky was talking about how she broke her hip in Greece because she was doing too much drugs and alcohol. But yeah, so we don't have to go all the way back there, but just give us a bit of an intro. Talk to us about kind of like your fitness journey and kind of like obviously what you're doing now and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Okay. So I'll do like a real whistle-stop tour of the first part that we just spoke about.
Yeah. Just go for it, man.
There, because I don't know when people might listen to this. They might be listening to this at this time during lockdown. They might listen to this in the future. You owe me a burrito.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So yeah, one of the things we do with the Fitness Burrito is we always try to have a cookout, and the whole thing was like we're always gonna have a burrito, and it's gonna be like vegan, veggie, or full of meat, right? But so yeah, as soon as I told Sky to come on, she's like, "Where's my fucking burrito?" And I was like, I can't really get you that right now. But you know, rain check.
I owe you.
That's all good. So anyways, sorry, go ahead.
That's cool. Cool. So we established that I'm from Grimsby, and it's a really weird place, small town. Go there again.
No.
So yeah, went to uni, did English, wasn't my jam, dropped out, and then kind of went traveling.
What was the like reasoning behind doing English? Because you don't kind of come across as the English type. No offense.
Dan, I'm really creative, I'll have you know. So I did English with creative writing. I actually wanted to be a teacher. That was always my thing.
Oh, okay.
English was like, everyone has that subject that they're just naturally okay at and do like quite well without putting much effort in. English was mine. So
really?
I really want to get a job and go into the real world.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a teacher, and in England you have to have a degree to be a teacher. So I was like, cool, right, what am I going to study? English. I probably won't teach English, but it'll be my kind of foot in the door. But anyway, that didn't work out. I kind of realized I wasn't going to be able to do 4 years of English. So dropped out, went traveling, and I was in Greece, as we got to before.
Yeah.
And I started to get a bit of pain in my hip, and it gradually got worse, and I couldn't really walk properly. I thought I had like trapped a nerve, and I was maybe going to have like I don't know, have to go to the hospital and have like cortisone injection or something. Wasn't quite sure. Just kind of avoided it and hoped it would go away. And then one day I needed to go to the supermarket, so I borrowed my landlord's son's like a scooter that you push your foot on, like not an electric one.
I used to have one, man. They're sick.
Yeah, they are. But I don't know if you've been to Greece and you've seen the drains. The drains are huge. Like, I'm doing this with my hands. If you're listening, you're not going to see, but they're huge.
Yeah.
I was going across the road and hit the front wheel in the drain, and it must have just shattered my hip.
Oh my God.
I couldn't put any weight on it after that. I was crying. I was in the middle of the road crying. So my housemates had to come and take me back. And I got a flight home. And it turned out that I'd broken my hip. And they think that I'd almost, not quite, but almost given myself osteoporosis just through really bad lifestyle choices, like really bad diet, not taking care of myself. So yeah, I had a plate and a screw fitting in my hip, and that was a bit of a turning point. Then I was like, right, you need to get your shit together.
Do you have one in both hips or just the one?
Just the left, yeah. It was only the one.
I thought you had one in both. My bad.
No, just the one. So yeah, after that, I was like, right, get your shit together, start looking after yourself.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't working at the time, I enrolled onto my level 2 fitness instructor course.
Cool.
Just because it was free at my college at the time, and I actually did want to start getting into a bit more exercise. It was more for my own benefit than for a career or anything. And I did that, started going to the gym, started training properly, eating well, lost a bit of weight. Wasn't really a goal, but it was a bit of a byproduct. And then decided that I wanted to do my level 3 personal trainer course, because I kind of had this idea of, if I can do this and change my life, then anyone fucking can.
You know, just for a minute, right? For everybody who's listening to this, I've just noticed Sky's got these 2 fucking statues in the background, right? And they're her I'm pretty sure they're her like bodybuilding trophies that she won, and she just sneakily put those in the back. Man, that's funny. Yeah, right. As if you put those as doorstops. She was like, I know I'm gonna be on video.
Yeah, right. If you watch this video, and it needs both, because look, if you put one, it doesn't stay shut.
Oh man, they gypped you. That's just, it's not real gold. They should have gave you real gold.
Oh, of course it's not. It's bodybuilding. Anyway, yeah, so.
Sorry, keep going.
Became a personal trainer, did some bodybuilding.
Nice. Did low key, again, I think you won, didn't you? You won your comp.
Yeah, I won my pro card twice, but you know, I'm not going to.
So, okay, this is one thing I don't really, because I'm not a bodybuilder, right? I know I look the part, but I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm trying to figure out, like, what happens when you get your pro card? Like, I don't get it. Talk me through what happens. I know it's a side tangent here, but
it's cool. It's kind of like there's different levels, right? It's like you go in amateur.
Yeah.
And some of the federations that you compete with will have like cash prizes, but at that level it's fairly low. And then if you win your category, you get your pro card, then you kind of go up a level. It's like you're a little bit more elite, and the prizes are a bit
so would you keep winning like a new card or like a new like step every time you win, or do you just have your pro card and then you can enter whatever?
So no, it depends on the federation that you're with. So you would either go in as an amateur or you'd go into the pro shows. And different federations will only take people from like you got your IFBB and like your higher up ones where Arnie and that competed, and they won't take certain people. You kind of competed at quite a good level.
Got it.
So it was a fairly small federation that I did it with.
Yeah.
But we worked together when I was in prep. Can you remember? I was a nightmare. Yeah,
you were always cold. You always had like 4 jackets on.
That is the one thing. That is the one thing I remember. It was August. And you'd come in the office and I'd be sat there like, I'm so fucking cold. You're like, are you serious? It's August.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Honestly. Do you consider it a sport? Hot take. All right, we'll just leave that there. Anyways, going back to your story. Cool. So yeah, you became a PT, and then you were working in Grimsby, weren't you?
Yeah, so I'm self-employed PT in Grimsby. And because it's a bit of a dead-end town, I kind of thought I wanted to expand, like, not just where I was geographically, but also like my business and the people that I work with. So I'm in Leeds. I actually worked at Virgin before I came back to Pure Gym. So I left Pure Gym. There was no kind of jobs going at the time, and I didn't really want to start up again self-employed in a new city. So I wanted to have something in the fitness industry, but something with a salary. So I went to Virgin Active as fitness and personal trainer manager. That's where I met Ross, Roscoe, and those guys. But I always kind of knew in the back of my head that I did want to go back to pure gym.
Yeah.
So worked there for a little bit. Then we got sold to Nuffield Health, which is a little bit more clinical. It's like hospital kind of, and I didn't fit in there. It wasn't me. So I applied to go back to pure gym, and that's when I ended up at Bradford Idol first, and then across at Kirkstall. And me and you worked together at Kirkstall. What a dream!
That was a dream team, man. We had a fucking squad.
That was sick. I don't think that club would have been the same. Like, just saying.
No offense to anybody listening out there that works at Kirkstall now. I didn't say it, Sky did, so you can't get mad at me. But yeah, cool. So, and then you've done your Mac Nutrition, which again, just kind of like in a nutshell, is a pretty extensive nutrition course that then, so you're certified, are you? So are you certified nutritionist?
Yeah, certified.
Cool.
That's it. So yeah, I always had like I guess as a PT, it was always my weakest point, nutrition. Yeah. So it kind of made me more inquisitive about it. And I had more of an interest in going and looking at nutrition kind of information than I did training information. So that kind of led me down a few rabbit holes into the whole evidence-based world, which I wasn't really a part of as a PT.
Yeah.
And then that led me to Mac Nutrition, and I did the course. So it's a year long. It's intense, but it's unbelievable. So
it sounds sick. It's something I think down the road I might look at doing. It's expensive, but whatever. You get your money back, don't you? So I guess that's a good little segue then into kind of why I brought you on the podcast, or why I invited you on the podcast, was because obviously you know your stuff when it comes to nutrition, and you know everybody's kind of going through a pretty crazy time with the whole isolation thing. I think nutrition is huge right now. Just helping people with like habits and behaviors and all the rest. And as you'll know, like, you know, I mean, it's so complicated. It's not just like one thing that you have to change. Like, it takes time. So I sent you over a few little questions because unlike the last podcast I did with the boys, I actually gave you a bit of time to prepare.
Thanks
for
that.
That's all right. So before we dive into that, because at the beginning of like the 5 other videos we tried recording before it crashed, was just kind of how are you finding this whole isolation thing? Like, what's it been like for you, and how is it affecting your mental and physical health, do you think?
Well, like, to be totally honest, I think I had a bit of a down day when we were furloughed from work.
Yeah.
It isn't really anything to do with fitness and nutrition. Like, that was just the fact that, like, work's such a big part of my life, and I had that taken away. I was just kind of like, shit, what do I feel that with now?
We're super social too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think our personalities, we like being around people. We like talking to people. And that's one of the things I said too. It's like, you're not around people anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I do like my own space and my own time. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to speak to anybody. But I live with my housemate Corey, so I'm not like completely isolated on my own. I am kind of missing my family, like my mum and my dad. But other than that, I have to check myself, because I think like we're in a good position. Like, as crap as it is, I think if you practice a bit of gratitude, you can see that this is actually, it's a privilege to have a roof over your head, to have food in your fridge, to have a smart, a laptop to do these Zoom calls, to be able to still help people, to have Instagram, whatever, to have that you miss.
Still get paid.
Exactly. So I've got that in the back of my head, and I am kind of just being like, you know what, when this is over, I'm going to have so much more gratitude for human connections and actually going and meeting up with people rather than ringing them. And like, we've always had time and Zoom, but we never used it. Like, I FaceTime my mum and my dad all the time now. It's like, why don't I do that usually?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I'm like kind of, you know, realizing how much shit I've spent on shit.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I'm like, I'm reading books that I wanted to read. I'm researching things. I've got so much more time. So actually, I'm kind of thriving, and I don't want to put that in anyone's face, because there is people out there that are probably up shit creek and having a really bad time.
100%. Yeah.
I think just having a bit of gratitude for the things that you do have and the things that you can control, and changing your attitude towards things is going to make this a lot more bearable.
Yeah, defo. No, defo. I think it's just like, I think some people are seizing it as an opportunity to just do stuff and get shit done and be productive. Like, and if you're not, it doesn't mean that you're not doing things well. It's just everybody's dealing with it differently. But yeah, I think you've kind of just, in a nutshell, kind of like encapsulated everything I think that I'm doing as well, which is just get up early, get shit done, read, listen to stuff, just try to like contribute to things that are going to matter in the long term.
Cool. Definitely.
Sweet. So enough about us. Enough about us.
Fuck, we're out of time already.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. So like I said, a lot of today is just going to be going through stuff. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I'm going to play devil's advocate because I want to just ask questions that probably people that don't know what we know would want to know, right? And again, who cares if we make mistakes? Who cares if we say shit that doesn't make sense, right? Like people are always going to hate. So I guess the first bit was, I just want to talk through stress because you'll probably know a little bit more about this than me and be able to explain it a little bit better. But just, I guess, like your understanding of stress and nutrition maybe and habits and behaviors, how would you kind of like go about explaining how that affects people right now? Like the average Joe, or mom or whoever at home who's like super stressed out because of isolation, because they're up shit creek, like you said, and like it's just affecting them big time, especially with food. How do you kind of explain that to people?
So obviously like stress has psychological and physiological kind of impacts on us, but I think at this moment in time it is more psychological.
Yeah.
I think people always kind of think that there's some myths around stress, and especially like cortisol as a hormone, which is what kind of regulates our response to stress.
Yeah.
People think that if you're highly stressed, it somehow makes you gain fat or stops you from gaining fat.
Yeah.
Which isn't really the case. I mean, what it does do is obviously it drives behaviors that would then make you gain weight. So driving behaviors that are going to take you out of energy balance and into a surplus, which is where we start to gain weight. So
yeah,
I think the main thing is, and this is probably going to be a recurring theme, is being mindful of how you feel and letting yourself feel. Like if you feel stressed, just taking a minute to be like, right, what is it that's stressing me out?
Yeah.
What do I go and do to counteract it? Because like I know me a year or 2 years ago would have been like, I'm gonna have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But actually, if I would just sat down and gone, right, what am I stressed about? What can I do about it? Can I do anything? No, let it go. Then I probably didn't even need to want a glass of wine after that.
Yeah.
So I think not to numb what you're feeling and numb the stress or distract yourself from it is probably a really good thing to concentrate on. Like, is there something you can do other than eating or drinking to kind of get rid of that stress? Can you go for a walk? Can you listen to some music? Can you ring a friend and talk to them? I think it's maybe looking at why you're stressed. Necessary, because I know for me, I do stress myself out a lot sometimes about stuff, and I even have you sometimes ringing me going, just control the controllables, and I'm like,
we've had a few of those chats, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm like, why am I fucking stressing out about stuff that actually is not within my control? Like, okay, we're on lockdown, do we stress out about it? What can we do about it? Nothing.
Yeah.
Stressing out about it is not going to make it go quicker. So it's like, right, what is your situation? What can you control to make things easier? And then go from there. I think if you are finding that you are all constantly going to food because you're stressed, it's like maybe just taking a minute to just think and be present in that moment. Maybe like take a few seconds, like, what am I about to do? I'm about to go and eat some chocolate. Do I really want to do that? Probably not. What am I going to do instead?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a few things in there. So like a surplus, for example. So, surplus is you're eating more calories than your body needs, which eventually is going to equate to you putting on probably a bit of extra weight that you don't want to. You talked about energy balance, which is essentially that balance between, are you maintaining your weight? Are you in a surplus? Are you in a deficit? Deficit being obviously you're trying to lose weight. So you're eating less than your body needs. I guess like stress falls into, again, the same reasons why maybe someone's emotionally eating and things like that, where if you're finding yourself every time you feel super stressed out, grabbing that glass of wine, like you mentioned, or grabbing chocolate or, donuts, I mean, like that's rewarding your brain in certain ways, right? So your body.
This is what I've kind of touched on in the food.
And I'll let you dive into it. So you dive into a bit more. So why is it that why do I feel so good every time I'm eating that? And why does that maybe or alleviate that stress or that emotion because I'm having a shit day?
Yes. So it's like, you kind of, when you have like a craving something or something gives you a release, it has like a dopamine response. Dopamine obviously is the hormone, not obviously, but is a hormone that regulates our our emotional responses. So it makes us feel good. So if having wine when you're stressed makes you feel good, you start to build that connection in your brain. To the point of your brain sees wine, it will already kind of wired to realize, if I have that, I will feel better, or I'll feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
So you're kind of overriding all of your natural instincts, especially with food.
Yeah.
That's why certain things. And it's even to the point of, if you have a thing about pizza, you can't eat one slice without eating the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you really enjoy it, and you've got that pathway built up in your brain will even sense that food in your digestive tract, and it will start to release dopamine, and it's reinforcing that feeling of good. So I went to a conference last year actually with Stefan Guyenet, who wrote The Hungry Brain.
Okay.
And he was talking about it and saying that actually abstinence can be quite good for that, because it'll give your brain time to forget. So if you can find other things to do rather than reaching for the wine, it will become less of an automatic response and less of a trigger.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And I think you mentioned some other bits too about, try to find something else, whether that's, listening to music, going for a walk, doing some exercise, calling somebody up. And again, like, it seems quite logical to us. Whereas I think a lot of people, they might think, oh, really? Well, why can't I just go watch Netflix? And again, I read a pretty cool article, which was, it was basically, I think it was like the American Journal of Psychology. And they were just saying how certain, I guess, alternatives to maybe going and grabbing food that you could go and do obviously aren't all created equal, which again goes back to, like, you don't want to just be sitting on the couch watching Netflix as like an alternative to you grabbing a glass of wine or grabbing some food. You want to be doing things that are going to really help you break that behavior and break that habit, which is why like meditation, deep breathing, or going for a walk and just exercising are going to massively help.
There's loads of research around meditation for this as well, by the way. Like, we're probably not going to go into much research, but I will send you the study names of things that I've been looking at before this. So if you want to put this in the notes, or
defo.
Because there's so much promising research around meditation, and people might think, fuck that. Like, when I first heard about meditation, no way. And the first time I tried meditation, it frustrated the shit out of me because I just couldn't get my brain to focus. But that's the whole point of meditation, is you focus on one thing. When your mind starts drifting, you bring it back. It's not about thinking about nothing. It's about thinking about one thing, and maybe it is what you're stressed about. And you feel that and you release it. So there's kind of some kind of promising research around the effects of meditation. And I think you just need to remember, like, the risks that you put. If you are chronically stressed and you're allowing yourself to chronically be stressed without addressing it, like, you are putting yourself at risk. People that are stressed are at higher risk of cardiovascular disease, and people that are highly stressed tend to have more fat stored adipose tissue around their stomach. So it's like, puts you at risk more as well.
I think you hit a big one there, and I was literally just about to say it. You took the words out of my mouth, which is, like, there's a difference between like acute stress, which is like short-term stress, and chronic stress. And again, like, I'm not a fucking expert in this, but like, from the few little things I've read from the people I've spoken to, and like just guys like yourself, like acute stress could be like, you're stressed out for a presentation, right? And that's not going to be like the end of the world, because that's normal. That's just life.
It's normal. It's like you fight or flight, all that shit.
Exactly.
That is a normal response.
You just got to remember, like, when you're chronically stressed, like, your body is just always in overdrive. It's always just kind of like, it's working at a pace, and it's doing things internally, and like you said, physiologically, that it doesn't really want to do. But because you're just so stressed out, you're not addressing it, and you're not trying to just kind of fight the problem and tweak it and resolve it. That's when you're going to start screwing yourself over. It's like anything else, really, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of other examples of that. But I think, have you read the book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers?
No, but I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, so have I. Dave Orange was telling me about it, and he was just saying it's sick, and I need to have a look at it. I think that whole book's about stress, so that's on my list.
Well, I was looking at some research around it, and it was like, in one of the studies, women who have really high stress jobs would twice as likely to have heart attacks than women who didn't. And I was just like, oh shit, this is me myself out. So it's really important. And I think you need to remember as well, the other physiological impacts it has. Like, stress can impair your sleep, and it can impair your immune function. Like, we're in a freaking time when there's a virus going around. Do you really want to be impairing your immune system and having low quality sleep, which further impairs your immune system.
I was just about to say, yeah, that's just a double
yeah,
whammy.
It's like, fuck, like, come on, you do need to have a bit of self-awareness and start doing some self-care. It might not be meditation, but it needs to be something that is actually addressing the stress and not just masking it and numbing it.
100%. So I think if we summarize that point, because that was a good little seg, is if you're somebody who's firstly stressed out, just try to maybe kind of like self-reflect, whether that's writing in a journal or that's just speaking to somebody, a coach, a PT, or even just like in a community group, and just start kind of really self-reflecting on, if my stress levels, and this is something we do in our group, or we try to get the guys to do is, and I'm sure you've done this before, Sky, is like, from 1 to 10, how stressed were you? 10 being like ridiculously stressed and 1 being not stressed at all, right? Or you could do the opposite way. And if you're under 4, right? So meaning you're quite stressed out right now, well, or the other way around, depending on how you look at it, then we would say, okay, well, we need to address that, because you can't be like that all the time, because it's going to affect everything.
Definitely. I used to get my clients to rate it like that when I had online clients, not face-to-face. So they'd check in and they'd rate their stress for that week, kind of out of 10.
Yeah.
And then the question would be, what stressed you out? Was it within your control or out of your control? And if it's constantly out of their control, then it's a conversation around like, you can't be stressing yourself out about this stuff.
Yeah.
If it's in their control, it's like, right, okay, then what steps and what behaviors can you adopt to address this? And no, because I wrote this down, it's not really on topic, but it's maybe something worth thinking about. But for PTs, and if you do kind of weigh yourself, cortisol, elevated cortisol, which happens when you diet, your cortisol levels will go up, your stress levels go up because you're putting your body under stress. It will cause water retention, and it can cause water retention. So if you're weighing yourself all the time and you're seeing massive fluctuations, or you've been like bang on, tracking your calories to a T, but your weight's just not shifting, it's water retention. So another reason managing your stress is important.
That's a good one. And I think, again, if I take a bit of a step away from nutrition and we look at training, like some really good conversations happening on like podcasts that I'm listening to and stuff recently. And I think they're coming out with some studies and stuff, which is that, let's say, for example, and it makes sense. Like, let's say we both do the exact same training session today, right? We both know at 5:30 tonight, we're going to do legs. If you've had a like super rough day and you've been stressed out of your mind, and you might even be stressed for the last week, so like chronic stress has been affecting your sleep, everything else, well, chances are what you're getting out of that training session is going to be a hell of a lot less than what I am if I'm like bubbly, loving life, everything's great, I'm eating fairly well, and I'm sleeping. So even just acute stress that day, if you like forget the chronic stress, but even acute stress that day could massively impact your performance. So I think it's just important to know that regardless of if your problem is nutrition or performance, like stress will impact that. So whether that's your environment, etc. You just need to address it. Like, stop lying to yourself. And I know it's easier said than done, but really just try not to lie to yourself. Try to just address it. And it might be as simple as like, you hate your partner. And I know that's deep, but it could be like your partner is ruining your life and you don't want to admit it, and it's causing you stress. Like, we've had clients like that. I have. Yeah,
I used to get it on check-ins. Like, my husband's just not supportive at all. He's really fucking pissing me off, coming in a foul mood.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And then you're like, shit, I'm just a PT. I'm just a nutritionist. I'm not like...
Exactly.
I'm not a marriage counselor.
Exactly. So I think some people, again, it could be super, super simple. It could be your support network. It could be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be.
Even talking about it is like, that's like the first step of just being like, fuck, I've said it out loud now. I already feel more relieved.
Exactly. So no, that's good. Awesome. Okay. So next question, or next bit I want to get into was, so mostly just tips and tricks for being at home and kind of to control habits and behaviors with food. So I know we've kind of gone over it a little bit, but I guess we can dive into it a little bit more. But the conversations you've been having, Sky, with like just, people that follow you or friends and family, what do you find is like the biggest thing people are coming to you or asking questions about when it comes to nutrition right now?
I think the two biggest things is hunger.
Okay.
And snacking, and like the kind of worries about the fact that they are moving less but potentially snacking. So I think if we start with like hunger, I think people expect, because they are maybe less active. I mean, for me, I'm actually more active because I used to spend like 4 hours a day in the car, and now I'm going on like an hour's walk and I'm exercising twice a day, whatever. My activity has gone up, but for other people's, theirs has gone down. That doesn't necessarily mean that your appetite and your hunger is going to go down.
No.
I think people are maybe struggling with that. And maybe that then ties into snacking. So I think for me, the biggest thing is like, what can you do for your hunger? Okay. And there's like quick wins, but I think like for myself, it's having set meal times, but making sure that my meals are actually satiating. They're actually filling me up. Like, people will snack for 2 reasons: because they are physiologically hungry because they're not satisfying themselves with the meals that they're eating, or because they're being mindless, and it's a habit. So if you look at the physiological reason, the hunger, it's like, if you are finding yourself hungry a lot of the time, maybe you need to have a more regular eating pattern. Maybe you need to look at your meals, base them around a lot of protein, like up your protein intake. We know protein is more satiating. Increase your fiber intake. We know that fiber is low calorie but high volume. You know, if your stomach, the receptors in your stomach feel that your stomach is full, it will send signals to your brain to then kind of decrease your hunger hormones. So that's going to help you. And I think people are kind of in that mindset of, well, I need to eat less because I'm moving less. When we eat more, we don't necessarily mean eat more calories or eat more energy. It's like eat more volume, but look at what you're eating. Is it highly palatable food, which is really dense in calories, but doesn't tend to fill you up at all? Like if you're having croissants and pain au chocolat and chocolate and cookies and crisps, that shit tastes good and you can overeat on it really easily, but it's not going to fill you up. And
your dopamine centers are flying.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And it's like, it's just that whole reward system is just coming into play. And I think like really easy quick wins that I used to use with my clients, like there's a satiety index, which you can go and Google, and it has all the foods like rated in like how full it made people feel. So it was a study that they did to see like how
just I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, satiety index. So they're like, I think the highest thing on there is white potato, which is such an underrated food.
Yeah.
Like white potato, it's so filling and it's so low in calories. I think people have kind of gone like a bit, oh no, sweet potato is better than white potato. There's not much difference in it really.
Yeah. Do you think that's because probably, and again, side note, is that probably because it's quite high on the glycemic index, isn't it?
Yeah, people get a bit caught up on stuff like that.
Yeah. So the glycemic index, for anybody who doesn't know what it is basically just kind of the level at which it spikes your kind of sugar levels. And a lot of people feel like if you're eating things that are quite high on the glycemic index, which usually means that you can absorb it quicker, maybe after a workout or around a workout because your body needs it. Yeah. That's why some people might eat it around the workout, or like bagels and jam and stuff like that. Because again, that's high glycemic index. But a lot of coaches tend to go try to eat low glycemic index foods throughout the day so that your insulin is always staying at a baseline level. And then they feel like it's spiking their growth or their, what am I trying to say? When they're trying to basically get like their GH up and all that kind of stuff, right? So growth hormones going up, everything's working. Like they think it's going to start burning more fat, which might be, but like it might work for some people, might not work for others. I don't know. I think it's...
Yeah, I think in healthy in like Gen Pop, healthy populations, it is pretty irrelevant. Like it is, unless you're really laser focused on performance, maybe do endurance events and stuff like that, and you're really trying to optimize recovery, then things like that will start to come into play. But in otherwise individuals, it doesn't really matter, and it's just something else that people like to complicate to make themselves sound clever. So
and I was going to ask actually before you go on the next point is like, if we just kind of relate this to, when you were prepping for your bodybuilding stuff, were you worried about glycemic index at all?
No, never.
Cool. So I think it's just worth mentioning that, because like Sky is a really good example here of how she didn't give a shit about the glycemic index and she got shredded. Okay. Like you were shredded to a point where I will never, ever even believe myself to be that shredded. Like I don't have the willpower. Like I really want to, right? Like, like our colleague, Pete, shout out Pete Burnside, who's like just posting a bunch of pictures of him shredded and just, I'm like, Pete. But Like I'll never get there, but it just goes to show you that you could be somebody who's all about keeping your friggin' sugar levels low and your insulin low and worrying about all these glycemic index foods when really you just focus on being in a deficit.
Yeah, exactly. I think healthy behaviors within a deficit, like lots of nutrients, not being restrictive with your macronutrients. I mean, some people obviously like a higher carb, some people like a lower carb, more of a keto diet.
Yeah.
There's magic. It is, the principle will remain the same forever. You have to be in a calorie deficit. How you get there is up to you. Just don't be a dick about it, basically.
Yeah, cool. So sorry.
Yeah, satiety. Yeah,
Satiety.
So, satiety. Yeah, so people are a bit scared to eat more, I think. So look at foods that actually make you feel full, but also making sure that you're enjoying it. Like, don't just eat a plate of veg and some plain chicken because you want to feel full, because you will end up probably still snacking because you're not actually satisfied in your mind. You've not really enjoyed that meal. So it's like, I made some roast potatoes last night, but I made them like with spice and Cajun on them, and they were just like so nice. And I love potato anyway, but if I'd had plain potato, I probably would have been afterwards like, right, what else? I'm fancying a little bit of something else.
Yeah, that was lame. That was boring.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think you mentioned another bit too, which was like hyper palatable foods, which I know you kind of touched on it quick, but like hyper palatable food is foods that pretty much 99% of the time have been like engineered to taste good. They've been engineered to like literally melt in your mouth within 3 seconds. And that way you can just like eat it nonstop and your body's not really registering that you're full because you're just eating so much of it.
Yeah, it's overriding all your natural things.
And that's why.
It's like food.
Sorry, go ahead. No, that's fine.
Yeah,
this is my podcast. You go ahead.
You asked me on. Yeah, they call it bliss points. So if you think about sugar, right?
Yeah.
Never really eat sugar on its own.
No.
You had salt and you're putting salt on a salad, right? And let's say I came along and just poured the whole tub of salt over it. You would then not want to eat that salad. Like, that's too much. There's like a certain bliss point where it's like, oh, this is good. When you put things like carbs, fats, sugar, salt all together in a pizza or a donut, you're hitting multiple bliss points. And then it's so hard to override that natural instinct of, right, I'm full now, I've had enough. Or, you know what, I'm actually not hungry, I'm not going to eat that. It's like, it just keeps going back to that whole brain reward system. So I think in that case, having some self-awareness, don't let yourself eat those foods when you are already hungry. It's just good. And also, if you are in a tendency to keep snacking and reaching for stuff, like, it sounds really obvious, but like, don't have it in plain sight. Don't have it in reaching distance. The more difficult you can make it to get it, the less likely you are. It's like the whole kind of foraging equation from like way back when. If you were like sitting at home thinking, I really, really would love a cookie, and you had a cookie jar on the side, you'd go and get it. If you had none in and you had to walk to the shop, how likely are you to go and have that cookie? So the more difficult you can make things, then the less likely you are. And it will give you more time to maybe think, do I really want it? Do I really need it? If you really want it, fucking it. Like, don't feel bad for it. But if you're going to have it and then feel guilty, that's something you do need to address.
Big time. And I think you just hit it there. If you're having it, you're feeling guilty and you're feeling shit, then that's when it's an issue. And I think, again, even let's say, for example, if you tried your hardest to do everything you just said and you still grab that cookie, just try to like, and again, I know it sounds quite simple, but just think about why you're having it while you're eating it. Like, and I know that sounds a bit weird because most people wouldn't do that, but when you find yourself struggling with snacking and eating when you're stressed or when you're emotional, grab the food, think about it when you're eating it, even count how many bites or how many chews it takes.
Yeah, that's evidence-based as well. Like, the more you chew food, the like less likely to overeat.
Exactly. Because like, and it's like, and again, I don't want to dive into it, but it's like, those, you can buy those chips or crisps that you guys call them right now, which are in like Aldi. They're like the hummus chips and like the lentil chips, and they're fucking amazing, right?
Yeah.
But again, they're probably not that much better for you than regular chips. And when you eat them, like, they literally dissolve in your mouth within 3 seconds, and I could eat the whole bag in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're amazing. Yeah.
But
I think so that's another. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say. So we're still on satiety, aren't we?
Yeah. So I think. Well, satiety and hunger, right? I think the main thing is to have a regular eating pattern. Don't let it be erratic when you reach for things. I think addressing your meal sizes, if you are feeling physiologically hungry, then you need to, are you actually satiated? Eat foods that you enjoy. I think also like things that I used to use with my client was like the hunger scales. So from like 1 to 10, and I kind of told them to never get outside of 4, like 1 being absolutely fucking ravenous, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't ever get more than 4, and then 10 being stuffed, like you want to feel like you're going to be sick.
Yeah.
So never go above like 7 or 8. So if you stay in that kind of bracket, like don't let yourself get too hungry. Don't overeat. Like you can't really go far wrong, and that takes practice, and it's not something you can just switch on.
Yeah.
Have that in your mind. That's just another tool.
I started doing that not long ago after Emma Story Gordon did our little chat when we were all friggin' starving, and she was just there talking about food, and everyone was like,
I'm at 3.
Yeah. But and you know what? It does work. I do think it works.
Yeah. Also, like this might be a bit, some people might run with this, some people might think, nah, fuck that. I think right now, while we're locked in our house, is a time to experiment with different foods and cook with different foods and like try and get different nutrients in. But there is evidence behind food variety, and the more variety you have, the more likely you are to overeat. So when people are eating, if I have someone that's kind of laser focused, got a really short deadline, and we're doing it quite aggressively, I will try and limit the amount of different foods that they eat. So obviously within that, there'll be foods that they like, but as soon as you start going up, and this is why so many people come out of bodybuilding and start binge eating, because they've been eating the same thing every day, and then they have croissants and they can't stop. So yes, have some variety, but the more variety you have, the harder it is to kind of override that, again, that signal that wants you to overeat. So maybe just pick out a few of your favorite meals and rotate through them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't heard that, but that's good.
If you are struggling.
Have you seen? We were losing it. We were laughing yesterday because one of my roommates is a PT as well, and she was losing her head. She was laughing her head off yesterday. Have you seen that thing? It's like everybody's making banana bread. Everyone.
Yeah, and shaving their heads. I posted that on Instagram. I was like, why are they making banana bread, and why is everyone shaving their heads? What's so fucking special about that?
And you know what's funny? We made banana bread 3 times since being in isolation. Just like,
why though? I'm even tempted. I made some baked oats, but not banana bread. But yeah, I think the shaving thing is because guys can't get to the hairdressers anymore, right? And they get the
my hair is fucking long now. Like,
is that why you've got a hat on?
No, I just thought I'd rock the hat. But
you know what? I was just gonna say, even if you have got bad hair, you are rocking the hat. So.
Yeah, cheers, man. But yeah, I think I might try to do the whole Johnny Depp like long hair look.
Oh man, please, I dare you.
I just want to see how long I can go. I've always wanted to do super long hair and just kind of like see what the pony look looks like. I'm gonna look super hipster. Aunt Park's gonna fucking crucify me.
Yeah, he will. Get like a little top knot.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I would never do the man bun. But yeah, we'll see. I just want to get some urban essence in there and get it super long.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to see it.
Okay, so cool. So that was satiety or hunger. And then what was the other bit you said? You had hunger and you had...
We kind of touched on it. It's like the mindlessness of it. So people snacking and, and I think that they all just tie into each other. It's like if you're snacking, you either actually are hungry or you're just being mindless. You're not being mindful. So I think even if you are eating really good meals, quite big meals, or cooking, maybe it's habits and you need to maybe address those. And again, meditation, if you're not really into meditation, just having a bit more self-awareness to be like, oh, I almost reached for the nuts then. Do I really want them? Do I really need them right now? Why am I doing it? Is it just a habit? Am I just bored? Cool. I don't need them. I'm not actually hungry.
Yeah.
And I think in that few seconds, and that's why the whole point of making things more difficult to get to, not having them in plain eyesight. If you have to stand up and walk out of your living room or out of your bedroom, down to the kitchen, to go to the cupboard, to grab a pack of crisps, and start to make yourself ask those questions like, do I really need this?
Yeah.
And by the time you get to the kitchen, you might just go, actually, I'm just going to get a drink of juice, or I'm just going to get a glass of water. Like, maybe I'm just
I've been trying, and that's what, like, I'd say I'm pretty good with habits and stuff like that. But, like, obviously every now and then you grab something you want, don't you? But
of course, and I think there's nothing wrong with that either. But if it is that when you start putting negative connotations on things, like cookies are bad, chocolate is bad, that's a dirty food, that's a clean food, that brings about the negative emotions. So I think removal of that as well is massive. And when you restrict yourself, when you tell yourself, I definitely should not be eating chocolate, you are going to want it more. Like your kind of perception of that restriction will dictate how impactful it is on you. So if you are constantly of not to eat something, human nature, you're going to go and want to fucking eat it. And when you start, you're not going to stop.
Yeah.
So I think if you give yourself permission, and we always use this term, we got it from MNU, you might have heard it flying around, but it's like unconditional permission to eat. If you want to eat chocolate, you can. You're an adult, you have permission, give yourself permission. And as soon as you do that, you kind of, that food loses its power over you.
Yeah.
So as someone that tends to be like, wants to start eating chocolate, I can't stop. Give yourself permission. I used to do it with some of my clients. They would say, oh, you know, cake, once I have one slice of cake, I want to eat the whole thing. I'm like, cool, right, you're going to eat a slice of cake. Dependent on how stressful it made them. If it was really stressful environment for them, we wouldn't do this. But if it was just a kind of overeating thing, they would eat cake every day until it lost its novelty.
Got you. That's good. That's really good. I think there's a lot of, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just like, if you know, when you get a new car and you're like driving it around every day and you're like, yeah, this is so fucking cool. You get home, you're like, no, I want to go back out in my car. The more you drive it, the more you get used to it. It wears off. It's kind of that same thing. Like the reward is dulled, and because you know you can do it whenever you want, you tend to not want to do it. So that's the kind of another thing about overeating and snacking, I guess.
Cool. I think there's a lot of really good info, and just kind of, and I know you've talked about this a million times, but like, it doesn't matter. And I think this is where, like, I think it was Emma Story Gordon who said this again on a video. By the way, Emma Story Gordon's a really good coach that we have on like our work kind of Q&As every now and then, don't we? But I just remember she was saying, like, you know, I talk about a lot of the same things over and over again, but that's because I have a lot of this. Yeah, but I have a lot of similar clients that still don't understand it, and I need to find ways of making sure that they, you know what I mean? And I think this is where, like, and I'm probably guilty for this too, sometimes making things too complicated when a lot of my audience probably just wants to know the basics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had this conversation on the live yesterday, and Ant was like, you know, what would be your recommendations around nutrition? I said, what, in lockdown in real life, that wouldn't really change. Like, focus, getting a variety of nutrients in, staying hydrated, make sure you're getting regular and adequate protein. You know, your carbs don't really make a difference.
No.
Do you want to be in an energy deficit, eating less than you expend, or do you want to just kind of maintain where you are? Whatever you prefer is fine. There's no magical macronutrient split of carbs and fats. Getting quality sleep and managing your stress. That doesn't change in lockdown to real life. Like, those are my recommendations.
Yeah.
The thing that would change is really if you're aiming for muscle gain or performance or fat loss in real life, and that tends to change a few things, and there's different methods you can use. But yeah, people love to overcomplicate it, and sometimes you do just need to say the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. Would you say, like, if you were just starting off with a client now, or just somebody who's just trying to lose weight, let's say, and, you know, even gain weight, and like when we're talking about how carbs and fats, it really doesn't matter what your split is and the percentage is, like, is it fair to say then, just saying, look, all I want you to focus on is try to drink a bit of water every day. By a bit, I mean, like, just drink water, like you know, more than you normally drink in. Try to sleep.
Drink enough to make your pee clear is the kind of go-to.
Yeah. And then obviously I want you to try to get at least 7 hours of sleep a day. And then would you say, and then with every meal, your only thing you're going to try to do is just eat protein with every meal, and the rest you do what you want. Start there.
Fiber as well. So fiber is really important for us.
Cool. So protein and fiber.
Yeah, so either fruit and veg. So base it around protein, fruit and veg. If it's like we're trying to kind of manage energy without tracking any of it, I'd say pick one or the other. So pick carbs or pick fats with that meal.
Got you.
That's one method. And if performance is a little bit more of a focus and they want to get the most out of the training, then maybe go, right, okay, you're going to have carbs in the pre and post workout meals, and the others tend to stick with, you know, protein and fruit, veg, and a little fat.
So as an example, let's say breakfast, I'm going to have eggs. So that's my protein. So I've ticked that box, and then I need fiber. So I need some kind of veg, or I need some kind of fruit.
You can have oats and berries. They've got fiber in.
Yeah. So I'll grab that.
The amount is like 30 grams. It's not really a lot. So it's fairly easy, but on average, the UK tends to only have about 15 grams of fiber. So
cool. And then if, let's say I got a bit of oats, I got my eggs, and then I was still hungry and I just wanted to treat myself. Like, I'd have a cookie. Fuck it, right? Why not?
Yeah, have a cookie. Go for it.
Why
Have you
not?
had the Fiber One bars? They're like little brownies.
I think I have, but I think it just goes
Yeah,
to show
they've
it's
got
like
fiber in.
it doesn't need to be perfect. You know what I mean? Like you still hit
No,
your
of course not.
you still hit your goals and you're enjoying what you're eating, which is the main part.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know, you can still have chocolate at lunch if you want to, but hopefully you made good choices around that chocolate. Like, I mean,
That's it. I think it's like, it's such an overused word, but it's like this balance, like a varied, balanced diet.
mm,
If you don't want to eat chocolate and cookies and crisps, like fine. If you can live like that and you want to live like that,
yep.
amazing. If you do want to have it every day, I have chocolate every single day.
Yep.
Around that, I know I'm getting adequate protein. Like I know I'm working on managing my stress and I'm getting good sleep. I move daily, whether it's resistance training or whether it's just walking.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, sometimes people just aren't even doing the basics, and that's all you have to really look at.
Yeah. And I think as well, I think for me too, like, you know, I don't really weigh myself often, but when I do weigh myself, like I might weigh myself once every 2-3 months. Right. And my weight never changes. Like it doesn't really.
Yeah.
And like I'm fairly active. I'm probably not as structured as I could be. Like my nutrition is not amazing, but it's pretty good in the sense that like I eat fairly balanced meals. But then it just goes to show you like my weight's not fluctuating because I built that relationship with food to the point where I can pretty much do what I want.
Yeah, definitely. And you're cued into satiety and hunger. Like you're
exactly
overriding it. And that's kind of like I use tracking calories and use like my fitness pal stuff with some of my clients, but it's the end goal is always to get them away from that, because things like that will override hunger and satiety, because all you're thinking about is, right, I've planned these meals to fit into my calories. I've not really thought about when I'm going to eat them. And once I finish one meal, that's it until the next one.
Yeah.
And like, actually when I was bodybuilding, I'd have like 6 meals spread out through the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be so hungry, I'd eat 4 and then I'd be like, oh, I've got 8 hours left of the day and only 2 meals. And then I'm constantly overriding that hunger. And hunger is there to drive you to eat so you survive. Satiety is there to stop you from eating more so you don't get over that, so you don't, you know, poison your body, because that's basically what it is when you're in an energy excess.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good tool, but you need to be aware of how these things can impact you further down the line. And once you kind of get back to being in tune with your body, which can take some work, it is so much easier to maintain your weight. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't know that. And this is what I've been trying to say. I was trying to say it yesterday, and Ant did his old playing devil's advocate like you did. And I said, I probably don't think fat loss should be a focus for anybody right now. I think it should be a habit focus. People should maybe take this time to learn how to live at maintenance, because not a lot of people do. Yeah. And if you don't track, maybe it's the time to track, but not because you want to lose fat, but maybe because you want to see what's in foods and what. Once you kind of have had a period of tracking, you tend to be able to look at a meal and go, you know what, that's around 500, 600 calories. I know that I need about 1,500 a day to kind of maintain my weight. So I'll go a little bit over today or a little bit under tomorrow, or I know I'm maintaining. Some people just don't have that knowledge at all. Yeah. And I think like once you get there, you'll know, because you'll be like us. And like when you're like us, you go out and you eat a big fucking curry and you look at it and you go, Jesus Christ, I wonder how many calories are in that. And that's like sometimes that's like the first thing that comes in my head. And I'm like, why am I even thinking about that? Just eat the goddamn curry. But I'm like, because I know I'm like, that means that this week I'm probably been in a surplus, which means I'm gonna have to work a little bit harder next week. You know what I mean? But like, that's cool. That's just how my body works. But that's fine. And you know what? Like, fucking gaining a bit of weight isn't the worst thing in the world. Like, I would happily gain a little bit of weight to enjoy myself for a few weekends and eat a little bit more than normal, because you can always pull it in. I think when you've got the tools and you know how to do it, you don't worry about it. I think when you feel out of control is when you worry and you stress about it too much. Yeah. And I've had clients where I've had to literally stop them dieting, put them back up to maintenance to stop them being so stressed, because they were in a deficit, but they were so stressed, it was being masked by water retention. And then because they felt like they weren't losing weight, they were then kind of giving up, and then they were going and eating. Like others being like, oh, I caved in and had this. I'm like, right, fuck that. We're not dieting. Get back to maintenance. You've got more room to play with. You're going to eat what you feel like eating within that, and you're going to feel less stressed. Yeah. Cool. And I think you said, and just to finish off, like people forget too, especially with dieting, like
when you start dieting, like your body's going to naturally just be more hungry because you're dieting. Like
Your body fights against you.
yeah. So like and this is why it's difficult to lose weight for a lot of people, because they get more hungry and more hungry and more hungry. And I can't even imagine how hungry you must have been when you're prepping, because like,
yeah, you have to fight it. That's a natural process of fat loss, and you have to accept that. But there is things you can do to kind of alleviate some of it.
Cool.
Rather
Okay.
than giving into it.
Sweet. That was good. So, how are we doing for time? We're smashing it. So, we're gonna finish off on this a little bit. And again, it doesn't need to be a massive section, but knowing us, it will be. So, we always do a flavor of the week on the Fitness Burrito. And we didn't actually do one on episode 3, but I thought obviously we've got an expert on, so we can talk about it. So this week's flavor of the week, we're going to look at intermittent fasting, because it goes and it comes. It's trendy, then it's not, and then it's keto or it's intermittent fasting. Like it's always just coming in and around. And I have certain people that I know that do it. I kind of sometimes do it, not because I don't know, just do it. It's just like
I do it. Yeah, I do it.
Yeah. I just think it'd be cool to just get your take on intermittent fasting. And we don't have to go in crazy detail, but just kind of like what your understanding is of it. And, does it work? Does it cleanse your body? Does it, does it basically get rid of all disease and all that shit? Yeah. Or just touch base on a few points if you could.
Cool. All right, so intermittent fasting, I think people think that it's just the whole 16-8. So you fast for 16 hours and then you eat for 8 hours. That's actually not what it is. Like, there's loads of different types of intermittent fasting. So you have got your window eating. So windowed eating, you might only eat for 8 hours a day. You might only eat for 4 hours of the day. You might eat for 6, whatever. You might start eating at 12 and finish at 8 p.m. You might start eating at 7 a.m. and then finish in the afternoon, whatever fits your kind of schedule better. You've also got like 5-2, which was a bit of a famous diet. So you kind of fast for 2 days, like lower, like super low, and then the others kind of balance it out. You've got eat, stop, eat, which is one that I used to do. So you would eat normally, like your maintenance calories, and then for 1 day you completely fast, don't eat anything, and you're like kind of wiping out like 2,000 calories from your week then, and then you carry on. So I found
terrible.
Yeah, do you know what though? There is some unique benefits to it, which I'll get onto. But it's one of those things, it takes a lot of willpower. But once you do it, it can be quite good for you psychologically. So basically, it's just cutting food from somewhere in your day or your week. Yeah, just slashing your calories. And I think people get caught up in it being magic when it's not. It's just another way to either put yourself in a calorie deficit or keep yourself at maintenance, because you're just restricting energy. There's no magic. The rules of energy balance still apply. You still need to take in less than you expend to lose weight. You still need to take in the same as you expend to maintain.
What about the people, what about the people that feel like, and again, because I'm not an expert in this, but like the ones that go, oh, well, it regulates my hormones and it just like, it does all this crazy stuff, which like, I feel like, there might be some truth to it. I haven't dug into all that research.
Okay. So when you go for a long period of time of not eating, you will improve your blood sugar regulation, right? And your insulin is going to be down because you're not having food. So there's 2 foods that spike your insulin: protein and carbs. People think it's just carbs, but it's not. Protein does as well. If you're fasting and you're not taking anything in, obviously you're going to have lower levels of insulin and lower levels of blood sugar glucose, which can help with kind of regulating that, but it's not kind of magical. And in healthy individuals, you get that with dieting anyway. It just takes longer. So when you go into a deficit, you're going to get that drop of insulin and a kind of the re-regulating of your blood glucose. So it's like, do you want to go fast or do you want to go a little bit slower? It doesn't really matter. So there's still no magic to it. And it can improve your insulin sensitivity. I think one thing that it is quite good for is, especially if you're interested in performance, is Metabolic flexibility, have you heard about that term? So it's your body's ability to switch fuel sources from fats to carbs. So obviously lower intensities we tend to use fat, and higher intensities we tend to use carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So people that do keto diets that are high fat, they tend to lose some of that metabolic flexibility because they don't have carbs. People that are athletes and on keto diets, they tend to say it's like having a car with 6 gears and you can only go into 5th. Like they get in that top gear, so you lose that inability. The same with if you're super low fat and you're always eating a high carb diet, your body's constantly going to be using carbs, so you're constantly going to be taking in more carbs, and again you lose the ability to act. You would start at lower intensities burning more carbs. So fasting can improve that, can make your body more efficient at switching. Women with PCOS, they tend to have like deranged metabolic flexibility, and at night they tend to oxidate more protein when we should be using fat. So again, some fasted training can improve that. So there is some evidence behind that. So they're the kind of unique benefits. Like it can improve your insulin sensitivity if you're having issues, if you're maybe pre-diabetic. In otherwise individuals, it doesn't matter because you would get that with dieting anyway. It can improve your metabolic flexibility if you're finding that your performance is impaired, or maybe you have been having a real high carb diet or a real high fat diet and you're trying to bring it back into a bit more of a balanced range, I guess.
Yep. Cool.
The thing to think about, if this doesn't really apply to the general pop, but there might be people listening, if you are diabetic, is that you might not want to do long periods of fasting because it will put you at risk potentially of hyper or hypoglycemic events, just because you've got that long period with no blood sugar. So you would need to monitor really closely your blood sugar levels if you were going to do it. So probably like a 4-hour eating window is not going to be great for you, or the eat stop eat where you have a day fasting is not going to be great for someone that has diabetes and being treated for it. So that's just one to think about. But yeah, it's a great way of reducing your calories. The only thing to think about is if you're fasting and you're finding yourself at the end of your fast getting so hungry that you then go in binge and eat shit and eat more than you normally would, that's not going to bode well for your energy balance, basically. So but the day fasting is an interesting one, because especially if you're out of whack with your hunger signals, because it can teach you that hunger comes in waves. It will go up and down. So it'll kind of peak, and if you ride it out, it will go back down, and it'll go up and down and up and down. And the next day, you actually don't feel any more hungry. You don't wake up the next day going, oh my God, I need to eat because I didn't eat anything yesterday. You just feel normal. And I think that was a bit of a light bulb moment to me, that actually I can go without food, and I can, there's no detrimental effect. I'm not going to feel like I'm going to die if I have a day where I don't eat, or even a few hours where I don't eat. So yeah, it's quite cool for people that are maybe like worried by hunger, or they don't like feeling hungry, or they don't know how to deal with feeling hungry. They think that once they're hungry, they have to eat. Maybe try that once, even just once, to try it. And you'll find that your hunger will go up and down with your circadian rhythm. It will go with the natural times that you'd normally eat. If you normally eat at 8 a.m. every day, you'll get hungry. And crash. So it's kind of a bit of a cool learning tool for that. But yeah, in terms of like, you know, autophagy and autophagy, I can't even say the word. There's so many different ways to say it, but rebalancing your hormones and detoxing your body and stuff like that, your body already does that. Like fasting is not magic. It's not gonna have any magic effect.
I think you know what, you hit some really cool bits, and like that was really helpful, so thank you, because I think that will help a lot of people just understand a little bit more. Like you mentioned, I guess just first off, if I look at myself, like I used to do, basically wouldn't eat all morning until like 1 p.m. sometimes, just to try it. Like I was just like, you know what, I'm not really that hungry. And like you said, you hit peaks where you feel like you're really, really hungry. But because we worked in a gym and we were always on the go and always on the move, it's like, well, when I felt hungry, and it kind of goes back to what we said earlier, when I did feel hungry, well, I just went and did a gym reset and lifted every friggin' dumbbell in the world and put them all back into place. And then when I came back, I wasn't that hungry anymore. It's almost like I kind of gave myself something to do, like a task, or was busy or whatever. So, and I found it worked quite well.
Sometimes it's like just hydration. You're just not hydrated. You're not even hungry.
You also mentioned sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, I say you also mentioned like your circadian rhythm, which is
Yeah.
something that's coming out a little bit more in like research right now. It's like your body clock and like
maybe we should do another podcast on that one day.
Yeah, and like we can dig out some research because that's been coming up on a lot of podcasts and stuff lately, and it's quite interesting. And obviously, I'm not an expert in it, but a lot of kind of evidence coming out right now seems to be correlated with just your circadian rhythm.
Yeah,
which is
and
quite cool.
Some of the evidence is actually pointing towards, in terms of health and like longevity, it might be better for you to actually, if you do intermittent fast, to bunch most of your food earlier in the day, not later. So that's quite something that I've started looking into. So maybe we can chat about that. But just to kind of round up on intermittent fasting. Yeah. Great for cutting calories if your goal is fat loss. If you want to, if you're super busy and your life doesn't allow for it, and you need to eat more regularly, that's cool. Like some people it's going to work for, some it's not. Really great tool for weight maintenance. I do it all the time. Just skip a meal, and normally it's breakfast because I'll just have a tea or a coffee and then I'm cool till lunchtime. But the one thing it's really not optimal for is if your goal is muscle gain, because we know for muscle gain we need to be eating regular protein. So eating 2 or 3 meals a day is probably less than having 4 or 5 servings of protein throughout the day. So that's probably the only time when you wouldn't really bother. But it's good for muscle retention. It's absolutely fine. And the just kind of back that up. But in terms of building muscle and optimally spiking that muscle building process, it's not great.
That's a good point. And it's actually funny because I read an article the other day that was looking at the 12 or the 16 and 8, where they could basically only eat from 12 to 8. And they showed that they could actually still improve muscle and strength, but they had to make sure that they were training having ate before. So if you trained and you hadn't had your food, so basically if you went longer than 16 hours fasting without eating before you trained, then you were basically going to significantly impact your results. So you could probably still do it, but like Sky said, you need probably to just eat throughout the day.
It's not impossible, but it's like
it's gonna be harder.
Muscle gain's hard as it fucking is. Like, do you want to make it harder, or do you want to kind of make it as small as possible? So that's the kind of environment that you want to be in. You don't want to be putting yourself in a more catabolic state by fasting and then going and training.
Sweet. I think that's a really good wrap up of that one. So just to finish up on intermittent fasting, the reason I brought this up, right, is because like you hear some crazy ass stories. So I had a client when I first moved to the UK. He was French Canadian. So that's kind of how he became my client, because I spoke to him in French. He was like, oh, fuck it. Let's go. Let's start training.
Nicely.
Yeah. And his name was John. I won't say his last name, but, and I remember him saying that his friend's mother used to always do this fast for 3 days. It was like a 3-day fast. They didn't eat anything, nothing, right? She used to lock herself in a room. And I remember he was saying that he was a really good volleyball player. He had calcium deposits all through his spine, right? So he couldn't play anymore because there was so much pain. So he says he goes and does this 3-day fast and comes out of it, goes back to the doctor, and his calcium deposits are gone. He said he had styes on his eyes, gone, disappeared. So I was like, fucking believer, right? I'm like, oh my God, intermittent fasting.
I mean, there's loads of stories like that of different things. And I think sometimes, it may be person dependent, and it may be N=1. That happened for you. Fucking great. But when you're looking at an entire population and you're looking at multiple studies, it's like, it doesn't go for anyone. When I look at it and I hear these crazy stories, I always just think to myself, well, like if I just logically think about it, the body's going to try. It does make sense, some of it. Yeah, because the body's going to try to use everything it possibly can before it starts wasting away things that it doesn't want to, right? So I don't know. Hopefully crazier studies and evidence comes out. But cool. So I guess just on that then, if I just look, that's pretty much everything we were going to cover today. So I guess we'll just kind of, man, it was good. To be fair, we've gone probably about an hour 10, an hour 20, which is good. When I first started these, I was like, 40 minutes max, nothing more. And no, there's no chance. But I think that was actually really, really good. So thanks for that, Sky. That's all right. Thank you for having me on. This is actually me losing my podcast virginity, by the way.
Is it? Is this your first one?
Yeah, I've never done one. This is my first one.
Nice. Sweet. Well, hopefully you can post it and, get some little traction on it. We're already about 100 million viewers and stuff. So it's cool. Yeah, well, we're just trying to, get some traction. So I guess just a little outro. Where can we find you? What are you doing these days? What's your socials? All that stuff.
I'm on furlough leave from work. I'm not allowed to work. No.
Yeah.
So you can find me on Instagram, where I spend an inordinate amount of time. I am at Sky Pure Gym. All one word.
Sky's an influencer.
And it's SKY. It's not, there's no E on the end, so don't do that to me.
Cool. So Sky Pure Gym.
One. I try and keep that one clean. So yeah, you can find me there. Otherwise,
expect super long stories, like extremely long.
They're entertaining though. Come on.
Yeah, they're pretty funny.
Otherwise, find me as a business mentor for Pure Gym when we go back to work. But yeah.
Cool. Sweet. And yeah, so thanks, Sky, for coming on. A lot of really good nutrition info that I think is going to help a lot of people. As always, I'm Dan Q. I am the guy behind the podcast. You can find me at Abante Performance, so ABANTE Performance. What's going on right now? We're doing live classes, which is cool. We've got over 300 people.
They are good.
300 people kind of tuning into that. We're raising money for the NHS. So for all Canadians and American people, you just focus on supporting your own healthcare. We'll focus on supporting ours.
You can support us if you want to.
Yeah, you can support us if you want to. But yeah, what else? We got a bit of an online community going with another coach. So yeah, I'll put all the links and everything. Sky will send me over some of those studies, and we'll put them all in the show notes. But
yeah, I'll put them on a bit of a list for you.
Sweet. And I need to make sure, last time I did the third episode we did, I forgot to put the intro track on the podcast, which is a banger, and I was devastated because that's that's the podcast. That's why I did it, just for the intro track. But yeah, cheers for coming on, Sky. Appreciate you. I'm just going to stop this recording. No problem. Let me just stop this here.